going on, guys? This is Christian Anto with Ileana Strength and Conditioning, Ileana Power Asylum, and Elite FTS. So this article or blog post is basically going to be going over and reviewing the topic, you have a choice, and this all deals with pelvis position. Okay? I have been talking about pelvis position with my clients online and in person for a very long time, and what the benefits of it are and the need for it, especially under heavy load. Your pelvis can be controlled or out of control in several different ways. The main way that most people can experience this or see this is in the squat. So an improper hip hinge will allow people to extend their back and their pelvis is in a anterior pelvic tilt. A lot of people, when they start their squat, are already in an anterior pelvic tilt, and to take it a step further, a lot of strength athletes in general, and I'll take it even further than that, a lot of athletes in general, because of the sport and the nature of it, all have some degree of an anterior pelvic tilt. So the choice is to use certain muscle groups. You have a choice, and you should have a choice, how to correct that pelvic tilt. And correcting that pelvic tilt or that pelvic position is something that needs to be done when strength training, especially in the sport of powerlifting. So, where does this choice come from? The choice comes from this diagram. This is going to represent our pelvis. And as you can see, the points given are going to resemble the main muscle groups surrounding the pelvis. Obviously, this is going to be the anterior portion of our body. This is going to be the posterior portion of our body. An anterior pelvic tilt means that this pelvis is shifted forward. While loading, we want this pelvis to be in a somewhat more neutral position. Now, there is a range of neutral. There isn't just one position that fits everybody, okay? So your neutral pelvis could be here or here. It is a range. It doesn't mean this is set and this is end all be all. If you can only get it to here, this is going to be better than this. Okay? So, in getting this neutral pelvis position, we can do that one of two ways. One that I have stressed a lot in the past is glute contraction. When you contract your glutes, that is going to pull this part of your pelvis down, which is going to lift this up. And if you're in an anterior pelvic tilt, it's going to pull it more neutral. That is not the only way to correct a pelvic tilt. Okay? The other way to correct a pelvic tilt, which is talked about via bracing, but not honed in on enough, in my opinion, is your abdominal muscles. And not just your abdominal muscles in general, particularly your lower abdominals. These two muscle groups should have full control over this. Okay? You should be able to pull your pelvis into a more neutral position just by your lower abdominals without your glutes firing. This was a very hard concept for me to understand and learn. And while you're under a max effort load, you should be able to initiate your correction with your lower abdominals and then lock it in with your glutes. Now, some of the cons that I found with just using your glutes to lock in a neutral pelvis position. Your hip flexors, when your glutes are jammed and firing and this pelvis becomes neutral, your hip flexors are then going to be rubbing over some of your pelvis bone. Okay? I take everything to the extreme. So when I was told to contract my glutes to help correct this pelvis position, I focused 110% on that, and I made my glutes extremely efficient at loading, holding the load, and correcting this pelvis and not focusing on my abs. I was really good at bracing and intra-abdominal pressure, but my lower abdominals were not aiding in this locking in of the pelvis position. So, this is now where we have a choice. As athletes, we need to be able to turn on muscle groups while we are being athletes and also turn them off. In a day-to-day basis, using a little bit of glute contraction here and there is good. However, if you can walk around and do normal daily activities with about 10%, maybe a little more, of lower abdominal contraction, which is somewhat of a brace at all times, that is going to be a stable position and going to help learn how to have a more neutral pelvis. Okay? It's kind of like breathing. Everybody is talking about, oh, you need to breathe properly. There's a certain way to breathe. Yes, you get to practice that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you have to breathe to maintain life. This is not as easy as that, because you don't have to contract your lower abdominals to sustain life. So this is going to be something that you're going to have to really work on consciously. You can do this in the car. They'll learn to train X. I told people at a red light to contract their glutes to correct their pelvis. Okay? You can do this at a red light. Now I want you to focus on contracting your lower abdominals without your glutes and feel what your pelvis does, and also be mindful of what your erectors are doing and what your back is doing in that position. So next I'm going to splice in a video that I made a little while back for a client. These are some exercises. One's a modified dead bug, to properly teach you how to contract your lower abdominals while under load and what I'm looking for. Try these out and let me know what you think. All right, guys, so we looked at a diagram. I'm going to show you physically on somebody what it looks like to have some type of pelvis correction, and then a few exercises to initiate that. First one is we need to, or what I was over-exaggerating a while ago, a few years ago, with using your glutes. So what it looks like is, you can see I have a pretty significant anterior pelvic tilt. I can have a choice to correct this with either my glutes or my lower abdominals. A glute activation to correct this is going to look like this on me. Glutes contract. You can drastically see how this shifted. Okay, so glutes, relaxed. Glutes, relaxed. Now I'm going to focus on lower abdominals to contract and relax. Glutes are not firing. Lower abdominals and relax. This isn't the easiest concept to learn and or understand. Again, having a choice while not under load is a huge benefit, and having the choice and option to use both while under load is going to keep you safer, more efficient while moving load, and is going to keep you away from injury. So, to activate lower abdominals from an exercise standpoint, you're going to be on the floor on your back. Your hands need to be pressing up against something to give you slight support. Feet are going to be in the air. 90-90 position is roughly right here. I want you a little bit above 90-90 position. You are going to use your lower abdominals and slight pressure with your hands, and all you're going to do is subtly lift your glutes off the floor with your lower abdominals, reaching your feet to the ceiling. And hold that position for about 5 seconds and relax. Contract, relax. You can then add in a dead bug variation or progression while doing this. So contract, and now you can let one leg drop while contracting those lower abdominals. Notice you should be able to breathe and talk while in this position. So this is technically not bracing, but I am contracting these lower abdominals. So breathing and bracing are separate. We have to be able to do them together. We also have to be able to contract this muscle group together, even separate from that. Okay, so you should be able to contract your lower abdominals and breathe and brace all together and all separate. Second exercise to help with lower abdominal activation, you're going to be in a quadruped position. On your hands and on your knees. You are then going to walk your hands out further away from you. So your center of gravity is shifted forward. If I lifted up both of my hands right now, I would fall forward. You can still see right now that I have an anterior pelvic tilt. If I correct that with my glutes, it's going to look like this. Okay, almost like cat camel. Now I'm going to correct it with my lower abdominals in this forward leaning position. and try to do it without any glute activation whatsoever. Holding this position, again, you should still be able to talk. A progression to this is going to be a modified bird dog. So, quadruped position, leaning forward, correcting that pelvic tilt with your lower abdominals, and then you're just going to lift one arm up. Do light touches and the other arm. You will feel those lower abdominals work side to side in stabilization and while lifting to maintain that pelvis position and also keep you from any type of trunk rotation. Give these a try. Let me know what you think.